Welcome to the Becoming SuperHuman Podcast, where we interview extraordinary people to bring you the skills and strategies to overcome the impossible. And now, here's your host, Jonathan Levy.
Before we get started, I want to tell you about an absolutely crazy idea that I recently had. You see, every single week on the Becoming SuperHuman podcast, we share with you some incredible idea that can change your life, whether that's meditation or the paleo diet or Tai Chi or lucid dreaming. But the thing is, how much do you actually implement in your everyday life? 10%? 20%? And you're not alone. I mean, even I, as the host of the podcast, am lucky if I implement 20 or 30% of what we talk about on the show. Why is that? Well, first off, in order to implement, we need more than a week. We need more like a month or even 2 months. We need community of people supporting us, cheering us on, and we need actual guidance from the experts beyond just a 1-hour podcast. So I had a crazy idea. What if we got everybody together in a members only group and then we committed to one another that we were going to take on a new challenge every month? 1 month, we would all commit to lucid dreaming. Another month, we would all commit to improving our willpower. Another month, we might all try to wake up at 5:30 in the morning. So I put this idea out there and we got over 100 people committed and involved. And here's what it looks like. In addition to a regular monthly challenge, we also send out all the gear, all the books, all the whatever that you need to complete that monthly challenge in the mail and in your email. We then have an expert, one of the 200 world-renowned experts that we've had on the show, come into the private group and teach a lesson every single week for a month so that we can actually implement what we're learning. We already have started developing the first challenges. We're working on a lucid dreaming challenge. We're working on a willpower challenge and many, many more. So I want to invite you to come try this out. Join us. There are over 100 of us doing these challenges and we would love to have you participate with us. So to join this new crazy experiment that we're calling the Becoming SuperHuman Mastermind, please visit jle.vi/mastermind. We can't wait to see what you achieve. Greetings, SuperFriends, and welcome to a very special episode number 200 of the Becoming SuperHuman podcast. Before we dive into it, I'm going to read you a review from the reviewist from the US of A who says, "So many good episodes, 5 stars. I've listened to so many episodes of this podcast and have gotten so much valuable content out of a lot of them. Jonathan provides some great guests. One of my favorites being Joe Polish. I had to listen to this episode many times and rewind so many spots so I could take notes. That's how good this episode was. Keep up the great work, guys." Thank you very much, reviewist. We really, really appreciate that. And you know what? A member of our staff agreed with you that they thought the Joe Polish episode was one of our best ever. So, 200 episodes. Can you all believe it? I certainly cannot. And we tried to put our heads together to think of another way to commemorate this massive milestone. Now, if you remember last time we hit a milestone of this proportion, episode 100, I went back and reviewed my top takeaways from all 100 episodes. Now, that nearly killed me. So we didn't do that again. Instead, we took a page out of Tim Ferriss's book and did a drunk dial. Except I haven't had a sip of alcohol in 3.5 years, so we did a sober dial. I called everywhere and everyone from the United Kingdom to Baghdad to Turkey to Vancouver, Salt Lake City, Wisconsin, and Egypt, and answered your questions. And I had a really great time doing it. So without any further ado, I'm going to present to you. And by the way, if you enjoy this episode and you want to hear me do more of them, well, let me know by shooting out a tweet to @GoSuperHuman and letting us know that you enjoyed it. If you did, well, we will do many, many more episodes just like this. Now, without any further ado, you.
This is Aaron. Who is this?
This is Jonathan Levy. How are you?
Oh, hey, Jonathan. How are you doing?
Good. Do you have time for a quick question?
Sure. Yeah, that's fine.
Fire it away.
So I did the super learning, I should say purchased the super learning masterclass probably about 1.5 years ago. And I was doing it for a while. Then just life kind of hit me and I kind of like dropped off from doing that stuff. And part of that was due to, I just wasn't seeing like a ton of fruit from it at the time. But some of the other stuff, like especially like remembering things visually and creating markers, like I still use some of that stuff today.
Awesome.
But so my question to you is, for people like me who they watched like all the videos and they're plugging away at it for a while, but have kind of dropped off, what advice or what would you say to us to kind of lure us back in?
That's a really great question. So the first thing I would say is we're constantly improving the course, and we know that life gets in the way, and that's completely normal, and that happens. And that happens to me when I join other people's online courses as well. So don't beat yourself up about it. We're at the same time constantly working to improve that. So since you've dropped off, we've added weekly kind of check-in messages where we will tell you just kind of the bare bones of what you need to get done that week. And if you contact our support team, they'll re-enroll you in those messages. We've also recently rolled out a pilot for accountability partners. So setting you up with someone who joined the course roughly the same time you did, and essentially connecting you so that you can hold each other accountable to go through the work. And then the third thing I would say is that, watching the videos is such a small part of the course, and people often get fixated on the videos and the exercises. But in reality, I would much rather see you go out there and start memorizing people's names or memorizing phone numbers, speed reading your schoolwork or whatever it may be. So just because you're not sitting in front of the computer consuming the course, I don't want you to think that you're failing at it, because again, there's a great quote. We just re-edited one of our lectures to add this quote by Henry David Thoreau. The quote goes, and I just had laser eye surgery, so I can barely read my screen, but knowledge is to be acquired only by a corresponding experience. How can we know what we are told merely? So, everything that you learned in the videos, just go out and find a corresponding experience, and you will make progress through the course, even if you're not sitting in front of the computer. Arguably, you might make more progress, in fact. Right.
Yes. And part of the struggle with this is that being an engineering student, a lot of times I can't just like fly through the reading. I can't like speed read with that. And that's been really frustrating. And even like memorizing equations, it's also like some of the stuff is just so abstract. However, I found that like in memorizing energy or power generation cycles, say like a Rankine cycle or Brayton cycle, I could actually like visually remember the whole process if I thought of myself as like a particle or some kind of gas particle I was going through like a nozzle and then a combustion chamber and through a turbine, all this stuff. And actually doing that visually was awesome. I mean, there's certain things that I've been able to adapt that to. It's been really cool. Other stuff have just been like, really frustrated because I can't really use the speed reading in this context, as I have to read every line, every word super carefully and then look at a figure and then go back to it and look at the figure again.
Well, what I would say is invest in the pre-reading in that case. And it's perfectly okay if you can't speed read something because it's too dense. I don't think you should beat yourself up over that, because over the years, what I've learned is, and what I've realized is that speed reading is really a parlor trick compared to the complete operating system upgrade that is memory enhancement. So speed reading is a tool and it's a valuable tool in certain contexts, but memory upgrade is like a full operating system upgrade, as I said. What will help you though is investing in the pre-reading, going through, checking out the figures, generating questions and curiosity before you dig into the text will dramatically increase your focus and also will clear roadblocks for you, especially in dense texts.
Awesome.
Check it out. And since you're already a lifetime member of our program, you can just go back in and watch. There's a whole section 4, just on pre-reading.
Awesome. Also, before I leave, how are things going with Brandon? These are my friends from UW Whitewater, and I told them about your podcast, I think like a year or two ago.
He's like my right-hand guy, so I owe you a sincere thanks, because Brandon is absolutely an instrumental part of our team. And if you hadn't introduced him to the podcast, I would have never met him. So thank you very much.
Yeah, he's great. Like, I think it's an entrepreneurship class I was taking. Brandon came in and just like, he was writing a book, or he wrote a book at that point, just like Leverage. And
yep.
I knew it was a really cool book and awesome dude. And we connected a bit then. And I forget how Becoming Superhuman, how that podcast came up, but yeah, I just recommended it to him, and I don't know, like, apparently he's your right-hand man now. Like that's really cool.
Yeah,
I can't take really any credit for that.
No, but I mean, it's really appreciated.
I'm glad things are going well. That's so cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Jonathan. It's actually learned a lot from you, even if I haven't been practicing a lot of this stuff.
I'm so glad. Don't beat yourself up. Progress, not perfection. I was talking with Brandon about this the other day. Like, I think as young men, we tend to beat ourselves up and try to beat ourselves into submission. But I think as you age, you realize that, Kaizen has its merits. Like, slow and steady improvement is longer lasting. And I think with age, we learn to have more compassion for ourselves.
Yes. I think I'm slowly growing into that, but
yeah. Don't be too hard on yourself.
Well, thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate it.
Pleasure, Aaron. You have a great Sunday.
Yep. Appreciate your time. Take care.
See ya.
Bye.
Hi there. Is this Akash?
Hello, who's this? Yes.
Yes, this is Jonathan Levy with the Becoming Superhuman Podcast. How are you?
Very fine, very fine. How are you, sir?
Fantastic. Hey, thanks for submitting the form to be on the show. You're actually on the air.
Oh my God, so lucky to be.
What can I help you with, Akash?
Well, actually, my question to you is, how do you speed read and how do you maintain a small talk with other people when you meet for the first time?
Yeah, so the speed reading is something we cover a lot in the online courses. It basically breaks down into optimizing the movements of the eyes, so you waste less time moving the eyes and also looking into the sides of the text, the margins of the text, and then starting to minimize the voice that you hear in your head while you're reading. And we talked about that a lot on the YouTube channel as well and on the podcast. And I'm sure you can find various places. We also talk about it in our courses. As far as small talk, that's a good question. I've never gotten that question before. I would say generally when I make small talk, I try to avoid small talk, I guess would be the honest answer. And I try as quickly as possible to get people into a deeper conversation where, we can both find a topic of interest. And a lot of times the way that I'll do that is by asking people questions that they're not used to, just like you asked me a question now that I'm not used to. So instead of asking people, what do you do for a living? I'll ask them, what's your passion? Or what do you feel your purpose in life is? Or what's the most incredible thing you've learned in the last 30 days? And I find that just by, in marketing, we call that a pattern interrupt. Just by getting people out of their normal pattern of what's your name, what do you do, where do you live, how long have you lived there, that kind of thing, you immediately take them into a new mental space. And from there, you can get really, really interesting conversations. And sometimes I'll like to practice new questions, and come up with kind of
correct.
progressively more bizarre and more exciting questions. And I find that the more unusual and exciting and friendly the question, the better the conversation that follows it.
Very interesting, sir. In fact, I'm following your course very religiously. I've I've passed week 2 at least through your PDF syllabus, and I'm quite enjoying it.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear it,
thankful
Akash.
to you for providing your courses.
Wow, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that.
Very, very fine. Thank you, sir.
All right, Akash, anything else I can do for you?
That'll be all, sir. I'll just complete my course and I'll be mailing you soon about my success story. And I owe you a big thanks for your help.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. I'm really touched and I'm honored to be a part of your journey.
Thank you so much, sir.
Have a good evening, Akash.
Same to you, sir. Bye-bye.
Hi, is this Cheyenne?
No, this is for Mom.
I'm looking for Cheyenne. This is Jonathan Levy with the Becoming Superhuman Podcast.
Okay, just a moment. Oh, hey.
Hi, Cheyenne.
Hey.
How are ya?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty fantastic. What can I answer for you? This is Jonathan.
Oh, hi, Jonathan. So my question for you is, how do you get through for productivity when someone is struggling with mental illness, and how you can kind of get through it when you're really tired or you're really going through a lot mentally?
That's a good question. Is it a depression type of mental illness, an anxiety?
Yeah.
Got it. So let me start off by saying that I'm not a doctor, so obviously consult a medical professional. But I recently had a whole bout with anxiety myself and a little bit of depression that resulted from stress and stuff like that. And really my short answer from my personal experience is back to the three fundamentals. So diet, sleep, and exercise. Getting enough sleep and specifically sleeping specific hours. So same bedtime, same wake up time every single day. Proper nutrition. So low sugar diet, a lot of healthy natural foods, fruits and vegetables. I know, it sounds like mom's advice, but it is really, really good advice. And then exercise, really, really important. And if one of those things starts to fall apart, if you're not exercising, you won't sleep as well. If you don't sleep as well, then you'll want to eat junk food and it becomes a vicious cycle. So for me, it was a matter of exercising, fixing the diet, and of course, getting the sleep. And then, if that doesn't help, you may need to seek out chemical help in the form of, pharmaceuticals or something that can kind of help get you back on your feet so that you can do the work. But in most of these situations, the chemical is meant to support the psychological. So you do have to do the work. As every psychiatrist I've ever met has told me, you have to do the work and you have to figure out what the core of the problem is. But medication can really, really help make that an easier journey and kind of put you in a happier place so that you can do the work from a place of joy.
Okay. Awesome.
What else can I help you with?
Sometimes I've done like Pomodoro method and stuff and trying to do it, but I've noticed that my energy levels kind of go down a little bit after like one or two cycles. I feel like procrastinating. I don't feel like doing this anymore, or like when things get tough, how do you push yourself through that?
Yeah, that's a really, really hard one, especially I imagine you're still in school age, so you're studying a lot of stuff that you don't necessarily want to study.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally feel that. And that's why I was a Ritalin case when I was your age, which I'm not necessarily recommending, but I do find that things like yerba mate or black tea or something with a little bit of a neurostimulant effect can help with that a lot. Another thing that I find myself recommending again and again is like pre-reading or going into subjects and asking yourself questions, coming up with assumptions, and kind of doing the work to prime your brain to get you focused. The Pomodoro technique will help a lot. And then the other thing is just, especially for young people, I find that distractions are a real problem. So, I have these little plastic boxes that have timers on them. They're called K-safes. And I put my phone in them and I turn the dial to 2 hours and hit the button and it locks my phone away for 2 hours. And then you don't really have much choice but to do the studying. I use a software called Rescue Time, which if I'm not being productive, will block me out of even moderately productive, but stuff like email, which isn't really productive, it'll block me out. So I'm a big fan of using external restrictions and limitations to kind of force myself to be productive. And if I'm still not able to be productive, then chances are I need to sleep. I need to go get some exercise. I need to go get some sunshine or go rest or relax and come back at it when I'm feeling fresh and energized.
Okay.
Well, awesome. Well, I hope that helps, and take good care of yourself and make sure to sleep and exercise a lot because it really, really, really does help. I promise.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, Cheyenne.
You too.
Bye.
Have you reached Nika Carly? I'm sorry I missed you. Please leave your name and contact information, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks. Have a great day.
Nika, this is Jonathan Levy, and your voicemail is on the Becoming Superhuman podcast. I'm so sorry that I missed you, but I think I'm going to put this on the air anyway. All right. I hope you have a wonderful Sunday. Take care. Hi, Jonathan Levy. How are you?
I'm doing great. My goodness, how are you?
Fantastic. How's your Sunday?
It is just terrific. It is fun to hear your voice.
Yeah, back at you.
I'm very familiar with your voice.
Yeah, I guess so, huh? Well, you are on the Becoming Superhuman podcast. I wanted to answer any questions that I possibly could for you.
Oh, that's exciting. I am glad to speak with you directly. It's just been an exciting moment, to participate.
Awesome.
A question I have is, I'm very excited to be learning more about markers. This is a concept I've wondered about a long time. And then I've had exposure some to other kinds of memory improvement techniques, specifically memory palaces and memes useful for remembering different kinds of things. Mm-hmm. A question that I have, though, is about my own personal experience throughout my life, where I have felt like it has been most effective for me to have a clear example of what somebody else did exactly using, a technique, such that I could try that on for myself a little bit and see if I could then apply exactly something in my life to what they specifically did.
I love that.
And so this is something I'm looking forward to in the course, is hopefully being given exact examples of what somebody did in regard to a technique, so I could try it on with their experience before attempting to overlay my own experience, right?
I love that. Which version of the course are you in, out of curiosity?
Well, it's the master course. It's the...
You are in for a treat then, because we went through all the effort and we actually modeled up with architectural design software. We built some of my real world memory palaces in 3D views, I guess you would call them, virtual reality. And then we actually walk you through my memory palaces and we show you, like, for me, an F sharp is, when I memorize musical chords and stuff, an F sharp is a knife because it's effing sharp, and so on and so forth. And we actually show you my symbols, like in the Russian memory palace, there's a pronoun in a specific case called yimu. And so you see an actual emu on the screen over the toilet. Mm-hmm. And it's like we actually walk you through all the memory palaces not all of them, that would be ridiculous, but a lot of my favorite and most complex memory palaces. So you can see how I do it and exactly the symbols that I use.
Well, then I will try to be patient.
Yeah, but also, as
I'm looking forward to these things.
Are there specific examples that you are curious about?
I am really very intrigued by new ideas that are coming. And, I love it. And they're coming as a flood in this course. And so I'm trying to, catch on and devote time.
I love it.
To working on them and, discover if I can, really be patient with my own self. And
I love it. So what I would be happy for you to do and to know is, I used to be a lot more rigid about the way that I taught the concept of visual markers, and that I realized that rigidity was restricting for a lot of people, because at the end of the day, just the idea of using visual mnemonics is going to triple your memory or more. And so whether you do it the best quote unquote way, or the way that works best for you, or just do it any sort of way, you're going to see tremendous benefits. And so over the years, I've become a lot less rigid in the way that I teach it. And I tell people the best marker is the marker that works for you, the one that you can remember, the one that's fun for you and doesn't feel like a laborious slog for you to generate it, and the one that you're actually going to use. Because if I give you a list of, and we actually just last week released, I don't know if you got the email, we released a new version of the video called Creating Effective Markers. And I gave all the list of what makes the best markers. And then I say, with all that said, and then introduce a bunch of new stuff around exactly what I'm saying, which is the best marker is the one that's fun and easy for you, the one that's memorable for you, and, the one that comes naturally to you. And what good are the techniques if they're not usable and enjoyable for you to use? So I would much rather see you adapting it. And even with all that said, the most successful students are never the ones who follow exactly what I say to the letter. They're the ones, I actually just got off my last call was with a guy named David Sands, young guy. And I interviewed him about 2 years ago because he had just these incredible results. And I interviewed him to ask, what did you do? And he's like, well, I hate to say it, but you teach the memory palace this way. And I'm learning my 7th language. So that was confusing for me. And so I changed this and I did this instead. And I was like, oh my God, David, that's brilliant. I would have never thought to do that. It's like, and it works so much better. And now I teach that. So I find that the best students, the most successful students are the ones who adapt the things that I teach and make it their own and don't take it as dogma.
Amen. So I hear you. I'm very excited and glad that these things are coming.
Awesome.
Well, here's another aspect to me is, I'm not an old guy, but I'm 65.
Oh, wow.
Some people think that that's just way up there, right? To me, I feel like I'm on top of the world.
I love
it. So I'm excited, looking forward to the notion that, it could be useful for some people to recognize that even folks in my age range can do really good stuff.
Absolutely. Do you have any tips for us to maintain a youthful energy?
My belief is that energy is self-generated.
I like that.
If you're trying to improve and you're trying to do things that you really want to do, and you've not been successful in the past, but you have been successful at something, is remember that. Remember what really turned out well at some point. And then believe in the notion that what you've taken on right here with all of its value that you perceive really is going to turn into something worthwhile and advance on where you've been. And so that's how I feel. I'm all about that energy. I'm like, okay, even when I'm tired, I believe in it. So this is great.
I love it. Johnny, it was such a pleasure chatting with you, and I look forward to seeing what you achieve.
Likewise, and I appreciate your confidence and your encouragement.
Pleasure. Take care. Have a wonderful Sunday.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.
Hi, is this Mahmoud?
Yes.
Hi, Mahmoud. Jonathan Levy. You're on the Becoming Superhuman Podcast. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm fine. Oh,
awesome.
Jonathan, I'm really surprised. Is it really you?
It's really me.
Nice to meet you too.
How's everything going?
I'm good.
Awesome. What can I do to help you today?
Okay, I just concerning the super learning masterclass.
Mm-hmm.
I'm following everything, but sometimes I feel like I'm a little bit slow. Sometimes when I lose my concentration because I'm a little bit tired, I can't focus really well on creating markers and everything.
Mm. And how far along are you in the course?
It's been I started it with free trial. Then it was a little bit expensive for me. Like when I saw it's $500, I spoke with my brother. He's in France, and I bought it. It was really, really expensive. It's a sacrifice. Yeah, I made a sacrifice for this course.
Well, I appreciate that.
I repeated it after 2 weeks, and now I'm in almost between the 4th and 5th section. It's good.
Excellent. So first thing, you're going to learn in the course about a really powerful skill called pre-reading. And what that's going to do, not only does it help you get an idea of the things you're about to learn and kind of prime your brain so that you'll be able to be more focused and have an understanding of the outline and structure of whatever you're reading. But the nice side effect of the skill pre-reading is that it'll enhance your focus, because what you're doing as you're going through is you're generating questions, curiosities, developing cognitive biases, and that will allow you to be more focused as you go through the text. Now, with that said, a lot of times if you're losing focus during a study session, it's probably because you're not taking enough breaks. You know, we're not meant to sit. Yeah, we're not meant to sit for hours and hours on end. One skill that I really recommend, especially if you're having a really, really slow time starting, is something called the Pomodoro technique. So take a stopwatch, set it to 25 minutes, start it, and only work for 25 minutes. At the end of that 25 minutes, set for 5 minutes, take a 5-minute break, get up, go to the bathroom, have a drink of water, answer a couple text messages. But when 5 minutes is over, you're back to work. And then do that in 3 cycles. Once you've done 3 to 4 cycles, then you can take an hour-long break. And somehow, I don't know how it works, but it really gets you into the rhythm and the concentration and the focus.
Oh, I understood. For example, concerning markers, it's still like I have to do them automatically, right, for everything?
Well, for all major details that you want to remember, then yeah, you should try to create markers. And we recently just added to the masterclass some clarification on markers. We put out a whole new video last week, actually. And we clarify that you won't always remember all of those markers. In fact, you'll probably forget 80% of them, and your brain will kind of start to create a macro image, one picture or visualization for large concepts over time. But the idea of creating all that detail and remembering all that detail is to give yourself enough information to create that macro image and be able to come back to it.
For example, to create a compound marker, or like you said, like this type of marker. Sometimes, and if you want to create like a detailed marker, it takes a little bit of time. I don't know. Maybe it's normal, or with time it will be faster. I don't know.
With time, it'll definitely become an easier skill, and eventually it kind of becomes second nature to start visualizing pictures and imagining them as you go along. But it definitely does take time and practice. That's completely normal.
So, for example, there's a border between the memory and the speed reading, right?
Yeah.
For example, next section would be for speed reading. But how can I know that I'm ready for it and my memory is ready for speed reading?
That's a great question. When you find that you're able to create markers for pretty much any concept in a matter of a few seconds, then it's a good time to go ahead and go on to speed reading.
Okay.
All right. David?
Sí.
Hola, David. Jonathan Levy. ¿Cómo estás?
Hi, really?
Hey, how are you, my friend?
Well, just arrived to Gran Canaria like yesterday, getting married in 5 days. So
wonderful. Felicidades.
Thank you.
That's very, very exciting.
How are you?
Yeah, really, really good. Just doing my my random prank calling,
Okay.
And I saw that you submitted. I recognized your name from our Super Learner Success Story interview. Thought I'd give you a call and see what I can help you with 5 days before your wedding.
Yeah. Well, like right now, I don't know what to say. Like the last 2 hours have been quite crazy.
I bet.
Just like whole Russian family and whole Spanish family, around 25 people just arrived to Gran Canaria, so Canary Island of Spain, like 2 hours ago, and I have been the last 2 hours distributing everyone in their apartments with like 1 million bags. That's the feeling that they have brought. So, yeah.
Beautiful. And you're practicing lots of Russian.
Yeah, starting to, yeah. Exactly.
That's awesome. All right. I mean, if you have a question, I'm happy to help if there's something on the top of your mind or some curiosity that you have. And if not, I'll just wish you, congratulations on the wedding.
I guess I could come up with something. Now I'm on the way to pick my fiance and then go to my parents. So it's a little bit hard for me to focus now. But yeah, I'm still really happy to hear you. That was a big surprise.
Yeah, man. Well, likewise. And I wish you all the best, and send your fiance, I guess, in this case, you say maladies. I'm not sure that there's a...
Yeah.
I'm not sure. There's probably a better word for congratulations than maladies. Maladies is like
Pozdravляю, you would say.
Yeah, you're right. Pozdravляю is for birthdays, so probably for this too. All right, my friend. Well, I'll let you get back to it, and paka.
Paka. Thank you.
All right. At this point, I want to pause and take a moment to thank our sponsor, Four Sigmatic, who is making it easy for everyday people to unlock the incredible health benefits of mushrooms. I originally learned about Four Sigmatic when I met their founder at a conference in 2015, and I have been pretty much obsessed with their products ever since. Personally, I use their reishi mushroom tea most nights for an all-natural sleep aid. I carry their chaga immunity blend anytime I travel. And I've also pretty much switched out my usual coffee or yerba mate for their unbelievably awesome mushroom coffee, either in ground or in instant form. Now, what I love about the mushroom coffee is that it combines chaga for immune support with lion's mane for intense focus. And because of that, I actually find it to be more effective than most nootropics or stimulants, including Ritalin, despite having only 40 milligrams of caffeine. It's honestly insane. If you haven't tried out their products, I strongly recommend you do so. And to encourage you to give them a try, we've actually teamed up with Four Sigmatic to bring you an incredible 15% discount. To take advantage of that, just visit foursigmatic.com/superhuman today. All right, back to the show. Chantal, guess who?
Not sure.
Jonathan Levy.
Oh, hello. How are you?
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm good.
Awesome. I hope you weren't planning to sleep in on Sunday
morning. Not
expecting your call at all. Awesome.
It's okay.
So what can I answer for you?
Oh, wow. Number one goal going forward for yourself?
My number one goal?
Yeah.
I want to work on projects that I'm deeply passionate about. That's my goal. And if along the way I manage to... I am. I think to some extent I've gotten a little bit bored about talking memory. And so I'm looking forward to new courses and new opportunities that allow me to dig my teeth into things that I'm more excited about. I think one of the problems, the side effects, if you will, of the rapid learning is that I burn through subjects really fast. I'll get obsessed with something like acro yoga or cryptocurrency or piano or Russian, and then I'll just burn through it really quickly and devour years worth of content in months and then kind of chew it up and spit it out.
Do you feel like in comparison to prior, like before you had that ability, you were able to appreciate or have more passion about things?
Well, I think it's not a matter of having not enough passion. It's maybe that I have a little bit too much passion and I have the means to burn through quite a bit of material very quickly and then get to the point of diminishing marginal returns very quickly as well. And, it's the diminishing marginal returns point happens in everything that you learn. It's like when you're first learning a language, every 1 hour study session is a quantum leap. But by the time that you can kind of speak conversationally, as I can in 4 languages, every study session is a little bit of a slog into how do we talk about political views? And, it's just not nearly as entertaining. So that's a challenge. But fortunately, there's so many wonderful things out there to learn and do.
So what's your next big, I guess, career move or platform you want to start next?
That's a really good question. Yeah, the mastermind is really exciting for me on a personal level because I get to do a new and exciting challenge with you all every month. And thank you for being a part of that. And so I'm super excited. I'm flying out in 3 days to go do the first challenge with, I won't name who. And on a professional level, I'm really excited that I've started working with a number of really wonderful thought leaders to develop their content and take what we've learned about online courses and what we know about learning and the adult brain and all of that and transform some really cutting edge materials that are being used in companies and all over the world in in-person lectures and helping them create really winning online content. And that's a way for me to continue to grow my business and also continue to have a pipeline of topics that I love to learn about. So I'm working right now with a couple different folks, both in the business leadership and skills and management areas, which are things that I really want to learn as much as I can about. So it's a great way for me to get access behind the scenes and learn the content and also help another business person and thought leader get their message out to the world.
That's great. I know I'm really excited about building my platform.
We're excited for you. Give people an idea where they can check out your business, RD Global.
Yeah, www.rdglobal.ca. And I'm so excited. I just posted my first blog article or panel on Urba today, and that's Urba Edmonton and Urba Calgary. So that's definitely a way that I was able to multiply my time despite everything. So I was really exciting. So I did that piece on the UN. I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at it, but I'm really excited that I have the opportunity to hopefully inspire people a little bit. I don't know. It's just, I feel like branding you and Superlearner and like just everything kind of has like fallen in line really well. And so just the opportunity has been great. But
I'm so glad. And I hope you keep up the momentum.
I guess, okay, sorry. This is more personal, but I mean, you have ADHD and I've had ADHD since I had my severe brain injury. So with methylphenidate, I've actually been able to function and decrease migraines and all of that kind of like really great benefits. I'm wondering what your current balance is for that when you're learning so much. Like what like I know it's personal and subjective, but.
So I went off of Ritalin for a pretty long time, and I go on and I go off, and then I was having some stuff with anxiety. So I had to go on other anxiety medication because of all the different projects I'm taking on and the wedding planning. And I just had like a stress breakdown, which I haven't talked about yet on the air, but I want to do some stuff on anxiety and just the scary stuff that can happen in your head when you're at a Holmes Rahe stress inventory of 454. So I only recently got a new prescription, and I think I've taken it once in the 2 weeks that I've had access to it. I am in favor of medication for folks like you and I who have shiny toy syndrome and jump around. And sometimes in life, even if we're entrepreneurs, we need to sit down and do work that doesn't really inspire us, you know, and sometimes we need to sit through staff meetings for 3 hours. But more and more I've tried to shy away from it because I think I used it as a crutch in many ways to overcome back then depression and in later years kind of just anomie and anxiety. And so recently I've been really trying to use more natural, you know, the 4-sigmatic mushroom coffee I drink pretty religiously, teas a lot, yerba mate a lot, because I think if I'm working on things that I'm really excited about, I don't need it. I need it as a crutch because as people with ADD, we don't have that ability to sit down and be like, well, tough it out. I'm just going to do it. I watch my fiance and she's studying for the bar exams now, and she can just sit on her butt and study stuff that she hates for hours and hours and hours and hours. And I'm like, I could not do that unmedicated.
I think that's what was so difficult for me after I had my injury was prior when I was studying, I was able to do what your fiance is doing. And then after just still being able to achieve quite a bit, but not to the same degree. So it was quite frustrating.
Right. And I had a doctor years and years ago where I went in and I said this. I was like, you know, I don't want to use medication unless I need to use medication. So, you know, are you okay with me taking my prescription like once or twice a week when I have to do statistics class? Because when I'm in literature class, I thrive. And he like lambasted me and he goes, either you need the medication or you don't need the medication. It's sounding right now like you don't need the medication. So if you're not going to take it every day, I'm withdrawing your prescription, and just like put the fear of God in me. And then 2 weeks ago, I went to, you know, he was like a 70-year-old, had been in practice since forever. And I went to a younger psychiatrist last week who specialized specifically in ADD, was very much against Adderall and in favor of kind of the more proven medications. And he said, that's absolute BS. You know, we're strongly in favor. If you don't need the medication, don't use it. But if you have access to it and you need it to get to the level that other people are able to sit down and buckle down and focus, you know, you have every right. And why should that be withdrawn for you? So he really opened my eyes. And I had always said, you know, if it's either or, then I'm going to use it only when I'm in the academic world. And when I'm not in the academic world, which is now, I've gone off it. But it really opened my eyes for him to have that different view. And so I took a prescription. Like I said, I've only used it once since I had it, but I'm definitely not against medication. That's good. Like I said, I guess everything's subjective for everybody, but I've had a similar experience as well with various viewpoints from physicians. And my recent one
calls that a medication vacation when it comes to ADD. So
yeah, super important because you can, and I have gotten like literally physically addicted to it. If you don't take periodic breaks, it can become, you need it just to kind of like get started in the morning. And that's ultimately why, last year I finally said like, I'm completely done with this daily habit.
Yeah.
All right, Chantal, I'm going to make my next call, but it was really a pleasure chatting with you.
Okay, thanks. And sorry, I wasn't a little more alert.
No, you're fine. It's like 9:30 in the morning on a Sunday for you, right?
It was sort of Halloween last night, unfortunately. Right. So yeah.
Right. Fair enough. Well, I wonder nobody's answering my calls.
Well, I wish you the best and thank you so much for everything. I look forward to accomplishing challenges together with Mastermind.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So I'll see you in 3 days.
Okay, sounds good.
Take care.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Hello.
Hi, is this Mustafa?
Yes.
Hi, Mustafa. This is Jonathan Levy with the Becoming SuperHuman Podcast. How are you today?
I'm fine today. How are you?
Really, really good. I saw you submitted that you wanted to ask a question, so I thought I would give you a call on this lovely Sunday evening and see how I could help you.
Okay, thank you. I'm very honored to contact me. I'm very honored to have a conversation with you. Thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Okay. I have a question about the naps. I said I can't take 25 because it's too hot. How can I overcome this problem?
Napping, you mean?
Yes, napping.
That's a great question. So I developed the skill of power napping when I was in business school, and it was kind of a response to not being able to sleep a full 7.5 hours during the day. And I found that if I slept either 4.5 hours or 6 hours in the evening, that a power nap would really help. Cutting caffeine consumption will help a lot. Most people power through their afternoon exhaustion by just drinking a lot of tea or coffee. And you'll find that after lunch, if you don't do that and you don't consume caffeine, you'll most likely have an easier time napping. But I will say that even if you don't actually fall asleep, I actually just woke up, quote unquote, woke up from a power nap now. Even if you just lay down, close your eyes and either meditate or do some deep breathing, you'll still get a lot of the benefit of kind of dozing off without actually having to fall asleep.
Okay, thank you very much. I will do. Okay.
My pleasure. Anything else I can answer for you?
Thank you very much. But I want to tell you also, when I started to learn from you, it was in the summer, I think, in August, or yes, I think in August, I have some take a course from Udemy, and then all the course I have subscribed to, and I want to thank you very much. Really changed my life.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and I'm really honored to have a student such as yourself in Baghdad.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, I want to tell you that my memory and my capability have changed too much for good.
Wow.
Thank you.
I'm really, really touched. Thank you so much, Mustafa. And keep in touch. I look forward to seeing what you achieve.
Okay, thank you very much.
Take care.
Goodbye.
Hi, is this Mike?
It is, yes. Hello.
Hey, Mike. Jonathan Levy here. How are ya?
Hello. I'm okay. I'm all right.
Awesome. Awesome. Pleasure to meet you. What can I answer for you? You are on the air.
Good morning, everybody.
Yeah.
I assume we're in America, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're not live, so you got a minute.
Oh, I do. Yeah. It's evening time here in the UK.
Here as well.
Yeah. But gosh, there's loads of questions.
Fire away.
Well, first of all, I have an entertaining past history. I was one of the people that didn't respond well to anti-epilepsy medicines.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that kind of run the hospitals in this country, the National Health Service, were rather insistent that I use their pills, which I did try, but didn't work. because the seizures didn't stop. So they're still fairly annoyed with me, even after 10 years, for not using any of the pills that had been tried in the past.
Right.
Is there news of any new medications or any new treatments that are going to sort of offer more hope?
Yeah. You still struggle with epileptic seizures?
I do occasionally. If they are epileptic seizures, again, you can't always take a medical crew around with you with their different scanners and blood testing equipment. And it's a complicated thing when you sort of regain consciousness and try and get information out of people to try and help.
Right.
Sort of points at what it is that triggers these events off, because there seems to be more of an emotional trigger, to be honest.
Right.
And maybe a way that I could adopt that would mean that I wouldn't see things in quite such a daunting sort of future.
Right. Well, so first off, the standard disclaimer that I'm not a doctor and I don't play.
I know you're not a doctor, and it's just a relief to hear somebody listen to me, just to hear me out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I have spoken with a number of people about specifically diet that tends to influence the ketogenic diet. I had a few different folks, that tends to influence seizures, specifically around epileptic seizures. But there's a lot of really interesting and promising research happening right now around the ketogenic diet. So the diet, that basically is like no carbohydrates.
I know what I do.
What's that?
Oh, gosh, if you'd have phoned half an hour earlier, you'd have heard me throwing my head off in the kitchen because I write everything down. I've recorded all of the things that I've eaten in the last decade. Just give us some sort of, it's a step up, really, to show that I'm doing something and so that we can fine-tune bits and pieces as things progress.
Absolutely. Have you tried a ketogenic diet by any chance?
Yes.
And
that's kind of what I'm doing.
Okay.
I live off things like coconut oil and avocados. Fish such as sockeye salmon, the fish oil that you get with them.
Right.
And very minimal types of vegetable, I'm afraid.
Right. And any improvement?
Yes, I do get improvements on a sort of daily basis. A lot better than I responded to the
medication.
The medications and the boxes here with all the wonderful things typed all over them.
Right.
And nothing like any of the side effects as well. So, yeah, I have tried that out. And if you want, I'll happily give any information that you want as well.
Well, I'd be curious to hear on an extended ketogenic diet. I mean, obviously, you want to find ways to get your nutrients and vitamins. So, low glycemic, low carbohydrate, your broccolis, your cruciferous, your leafy greens and stuff. But I've heard really, really incredible stuff. And I know that there was research done in 2015 where they explored, I think it's called decanoic acid, and how that's a byproduct. And they're not sure if it's the ketones or the decanoic acid that reduces the risk of seizures.
That improvement.
Right. But it would be interesting to hear kind of persisting on that diet. And another thing that I'm going to throw out there, which, by the way, research it first, contact them, make sure. But recently I've been talking to a lot of doctors about the Wim Hof method, the breathing techniques used to alkalinize the body. Now, if you have epilepsy, that could be a risk factor, so you may not want to. But I was going through all kinds of weird stuff, like derealization and kind of feeling like I was in a dream. And a number of psychiatrists actually told me, very forward-thinking psychiatrists, admittedly, told me Wim Hof method, breathing, alkalinizing the body, pumping it full of oxygen in the morning would improve a lot of things, apparently. It's really remarkable how many doctors have started wising up and recommending pretty powerful breathing techniques. So I would check that out as well. Again, it could be a risk factor, but every day I'm surprised by the things that I learn that this technique helps with. And the idea is just to learn to control your autonomic nervous system through breathing techniques.
Yeah. I've got a strange background history. I have to say, initially I went to college and trained up to be a geologist and studied glaciers.
Very cool.
Ended up in a place called Svalbard, right at the very top of Norway.
Right.
So if I could say I'd ever had an experience of sort of not eating enough and alkaline body.
Right. And the cold exposure that comes with the Wim Hof
That's
method.
right, yes. I would have said that it was being stuck 3 months on a glacier in Svalbard.
Right.
So at the time, I mean, we're talking, 30-odd years ago, everyone assumed that eating a high carbohydrate diet was good for you.
Oh, yeah.
And that's sort of what we took with us out in those sort of crates that were thrown out of the back of a helicopter.
Wow.
In a place where it never turned dark at the time.
Yeah, that couldn't have been good for you.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, I'm glad to hear that you're giving the ketogenic thing a try.
I'm giving it a try, and I'm writing utterly everything down that I can.
But Mike, I got to head on to my next random victim.
Thank you for calling me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and I wish you all the health in the world.
Thank you.
Take care, my friend. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi, is this Marcin?
Yes.
Hi, Marcin. This is Jonathan Levy with the Becoming Superhuman Podcast. How are you?
Oh, hi. Great. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I tried to connect with you earlier. I think you didn't hear me. I saw that you submitted your phone number because you had a question to ask. What can I help you with?
Well, I have a question about creating visual markers.
Sure.
I am a medicine student, and I don't really get when and how to create those markers when I learn.
Sure. What kind of stuff are you learning?
Well, now it's the hematology.
Okay. So give me like an example. I'm not sure what hematology is. Something to do with blood, right?
Yes, it's blood. And now I have types of, how to say it, the types of disease when you don't have enough blood. And you have, in those diseases, you have many things that get on this disease that make this disease show up. And also many things you have to think about if this is the disease of not having enough blood, or is it another one?
Got it. So typically when I talk to medical students, the way I recommend doing specific medical terminology is the same way that we do foreign language words, which is breaking things down. So for example, a hematoma, you would break into hema and come up with a visualization for that. Toma might be a tomato. Create a visualization with a tomato and a hematoma to remember it. And then what I would do is you create a structure and a logic around a memory palace such that you can kind of, each room is a different symptom, or structure it so that each corner of each room is a different thing. For example, causes in the far right corner, the far left corner would be medicines that treat it. You know, the nearby left corner might be contraindications. You kind of get where I'm going, where you create a structure and a memory palace template that you can then go around, and for every disease, you can have a memory palace, or for every type of medication, you can have a memory palace. And the structure is really up to you. What I would recommend doing is using the logic of the memory palace inherently. So for example, you know, if you want to put the cure in the bathroom where you would typically administer medication, you know, that's where you do all your brushing your teeth and all that stuff. If you want to put the symptoms in the bedroom where you would typically lay down whenever you're feeling sick and so on, you use the inherent logic of the memory palace as it exists, and that helps you remember the overall layout and structure.
All right, but if I get one place, you say it's like a corner or a bathroom for medications, do I place like 4, 5, or 8 medications, or I have to use another place, like more spacious one too?
That's a really good question. So you can have a lot of density in your memory palaces. Even a small half bathroom, you can fit all kinds of stuff in there. But the reason your question is so good is it kind of underscores the fact that we need to think about how much information we want to store in the memory palace before we build it, and then logically go, okay, I need this room. Or for example, when I did the Russian grammatical case system, I go, okay, there are 6 grammatical cases. Each one has 3 genders. And within that, I'm going to need pronouns, nouns, adverbs, adjectives. So I knew I needed 6 rooms. Each room needed to be big enough to store between 18 and 36 different symbols. And then I just ahead of time was able to structure out and choose the right memory palace for me, because you have an unlimited number of memory palaces out there that you could build from, every store you've ever been to. It's just a matter of sitting down and thinking about it. And also don't worry about perfection, because if you have to, you go in and you make things more dense. You can come up with different kinds of systems. For example, using the tops of a corner, like the ceiling corner, the floor corner. You can do pictures on the walls. You can always add more density and complexity to a memory palace. What's hard is erasing a memory palace once you've created it.
All right. And one more thing. If you place a marker in the memory palace, you use only one marker per word or concept, or you build a compound marker and place it there?
Depends on the complexity. If it were something more complex like a subdermal hematoma, or, the name of a medication like methylphenidate hydrochloride, I would probably have to come up with a compound marker. Whereas something very easy like edema, I would just come up with one marker. And typically what you might want to do is you just have your compound markers be animated scenes, right? So subdermal hematoma, come up with a submarine that's made out of the dermis, because you already know that the dermis is skin. So it's a skin submarine, and then it's going into a pool of hemoglobin, and in the pool of hemoglobin is a bunch of tomatoes. And then you would just remember what a subdermal hematoma is. It's a submarine under the skin, that looks this way and that way. I don't actually know what a subdermal hematoma is. It's just that happened to pop into my head. So your visualization would probably be much better.
Okay.
Awesome.
Great.
All right, Marcin. Well, thanks so much. I'm really excited to see what you achieve.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Have a good evening.
And you too. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
הלו.
שלום, הגעתי לבראל.
כן, אהלן.
היי, יונתן לוי מה-Becoming SuperHuman Podcast. מה שלומך?
בסדר, זה באמת אתה?
זה באמת אני באמת מקליט. אני אעביר אותך רק לאנגלית כדי שהקהל יבין. How are you?
Everything is good.
Awesome. Barael, what can I answer for you today?
Did I leave my number for something? I don't remember.
You did, yeah. You submitted your number that you wanted to be called to ask a question on the podcast live on air. So you are on air, unless you don't want to be on air.
Right now, I don't know, because I don't remember what I wanted to ask.
No problem. יש לך איזה שאלה שצף לך?
לא, אני בתחילת הקורס שלך, בינתיים מאוד טוב לי, ואני מצטער שאני לא יכול לקחת את המאסטר קלאס.
No problem. So I'll translate for everyone. You just started the course. It's going really well for you. And one day you hope to take the masterclass.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Barel, if there's no question, then I will let you go for your Sunday evening. But I really look forward to seeing what you achieve.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
My friend. Shavua tov.
Bye. Shavua tov.
Hello.
Hi, is this Girish?
Uh-huh.
Hi, Girish. Jonathan Levy. How are you?
Oh, my God.
Jonathan.
Hey.
Wow. Well, hold on a second. This is not a dream, right? How are you doing?
Really awesome. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for agreeing to be on the air.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's an honor to be on your air with you.
Awesome. So, what can I answer for you?
One of the few books which I read was called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Brilliant book.
So I heard that memory is a small function of the consciousness. So I know you're the best as far as the field of memory and everything. The techniques are good. The entire understanding is good. But where does this lead the next step? What's the next step of the memory? Is it consciousness or super consciousness? So what are your thoughts on it?
Ooh, that's a great question, Girish. So
Thank you.
I think on the one hand, we are the sum of our memories to some extent, right? Where the way that we see the world, we see it through the context of our own experience. And so without your memories, you are no longer the you that you know. But I love what Eckhart Tolle says when he says that you are not your mind, you are not your thoughts, you're mere consciousness. And I think you have to break apart this idea of you, because there is the observer that observes what's actually happening in your life and even observes what's happening in your mind, the one that witnesses your thoughts. And then there's the you for practical purposes, right, that we use in conversation. The you that when I say you, I mean Girish. I mean your thoughts and your emotions and your spirit and your personality. And I think those are two different kinds of you. So when I think about memory, I think about it less on the spiritual, right? Because all knowledge comes from the outside, but all wisdom, all actual wisdom has to come from within. And so I think memory is a means to enrich our quality of life and the quality of experiences that we have, whether that be get a better job or have more intimate relationships with people and care more about the people in our lives and remember more people's names and learn more interesting history and just enrich the experience of our lives. But I don't think that should be confused with enriching our spiritual experience, which I think is a much deeper and potentially even more important thing. It's almost like two different planes for me. And I do think that memory plays a role in spiritual travel. I mean, there's a reason why monks and rabbis and imams memorize scripture. And I think there's a lot to be said about being able to learn the tools by which you go along on a spiritual journey. But I don't think that you can learn and memorize a better connection to the essence of the universe.
Thank you. That's a great understanding. I have one more question for you, Jonathan. And so I think this is almost like 6-7 years ago, I believe. I was back in India. Right now I'm in the United States doing my master's, right? I was back there in India. And there's a quiz competition on space, on the universe and everything. There's a quiz competition back in my school. The competition is pretty intense. They're almost like I was qualified. My team qualified through a very rigorous process of elimination. And there's a final question. If I don't answer it, I'm out of the game. So it's pretty intense. And a question was given by the quiz master saying, expand KSC.
KSC.
Exactly. I have no idea what that is. Expand KSC. That's what the quiz master told. And the team, which is behind me, which is ready for the position, they look like, aha, there you go. You're getting eliminated. And all my friends looked at me and told me, like, that's it. We're done, we're eliminated. So I just sat there. I don't know, I was just focusing on it because I don't want to lose that competition. I really want to win it so bad. Out of from nowhere in my mind, an answer popped up. Kennedy Space Center. Wow. I was sitting there in India. I never ever know about John F. Kennedy, except there is a president. I never know there's a space center named behind him. But the mind threw the answer at me like a punch on my face. I said Kennedy Space Center. I gave that answer. I won the competition. So that's one of the first things which came out of my memory. You know, when you say memory, is we grab from
our surroundings or whatever information you're trying to get in, right? But this came out of nowhere from any inputs. That's the first thing. And the second thing, it happened in the United States. I mean, there are many things, but usually you tend to, you take them for granted. I was playing, I'm actually interested in chess. In chess, memory plays a lot. When you see intuition, a grandmaster tries to play his moves so naturally, fluidly, because his memory is overloaded with the positions seeing over and over and over again. So he just plays the moves at random. I was being coached by a title player. He was probably around like 2000, and I'm around like 800 rating point. So he was trying to coach me, and he's saying that you got to play intensive, you got to play aggressive. I said, yeah, sure. I never beaten him once in my life. He said, if you don't beat this, you're not going to lose the tournament. He started playing with me. And I really want to beat him, but I never did. Then out of nowhere, I played a move. He just looked at behind and said, okay, I resign. I never thought to that move. How could you ever play that move? Then I sat back and decided, why did I play that move? I never played it. But the only question back in my mind was, what's the best move? What's the best move? What's the best move? And automatically played that move.
Fascinating.
Since you are the expert on the memory, so where do you think these things are happening?
That's a fascinating question that, again, I think almost touches on the spiritual. I mean, your first story struck me as more of a spiritual connection, and I've often been fascinated with this idea of I had a very early fascination when I was young. I saw a movie called Waking Life, which, if you're interested in Eckhart Tolle, and it's just a fascinating exploration of dream space and consciousness. And it's really a movie about philosophy as told through a series of dreams. And it gets into some very heady and deep philosophical concepts. And one of the concepts there was this idea that how do we know that we're not connected intellectually? Like, we can talk about psychic or ESP, but in reality, if someone 1,000 years ago was shown a magnet, a simple magnet that we all understand to be a force of physics, positive and negative ions, if they were shown that magnet, they would think it was a trick. But today we take it for granted. And this person postulated that how do we know that 1,000 years from now we won't figure out the reason that, a twin jumps out of bed in the middle of the night when their twin is killed is because of some deep connection, or how a mother always knows when her child is in danger. And I just think that's a really interesting concept that's worth exploring, especially in the context of there are so many things that even 50 years ago, 100 years ago was nothing in the span of our evolution. And yet there were so many things we didn't understand. We didn't understand radiation like 70 years ago. Yeah. And now it's such a basic thing. That's what came to mind for me. And also, I think there are recesses of our memory that we just don't even understand. I heard about a friend doing an interesting program with Dave Asprey called 40 Years of Zen, where they pump people full of nootropics and do all kinds of light therapy and treatment. And they bring out memories, similar to an ayahuasca experience, where they'll bring out memories that you didn't know you had. So maybe as a child in India, you were listening, your father was listening to the news and someone said something about Kennedy Space Center and it just stuck in there. I can't even imagine, where that or how that would work. It's beyond even my understanding of memory. But it's fascinating stuff. We're always learning about memory and the way that the brain works, and we still have only scratched the surface. There's so many weird and interesting cases of people who have parts of their brain removed and somehow the brain adapts, and we don't understand why and we don't understand how. I recently learned that there are differences in the way that men and women's brains actually recall memories, or at least they're starting to think that there are differences. So it's an interesting topic. I don't have a clear answer for you, though.
It makes sense.
Awesome. Girish, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. I'm really excited to hear that you're going to be a part of next month's challenge. So I'll see you then.
Yeah, I'm looking for that. I hope our new year started 2 months ahead. So I think we're already there.
Awesome. Take care, my friend.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right, super friends, that is all we have for you today, but I hope you guys really enjoyed the show and I hope you learned a ton of actionable information, tips, advice that will help you go out there and overcome the impossible. If you've enjoyed the show, please take a moment to leave us a review on iTunes or Stitcher or drop us a quick little note on the Twitter machine at GoSuperHuman. Also, if you have any ideas for anyone out there who you would love to see on the show, we always love to hear your recommendations. You can submit on our website or you can just drop us an email and let us know. That's all for today, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in to the Becoming Superhuman Podcast. For more great skills and strategies, or for links to any of the resources mentioned in this episode, visit www.becomingasuperhuman.com/podcast. We'll see you next time.